Welcome to Stories from the Center of the Universe, the podcast about the human experience.
Mila Liakhovitser, welcome to the Center of the Universe.
Well, thank you. Happy to be here.
Great to have you here. I'm glad you drove out here. Did it take 33 minutes?
34, 33, no. Whatever I texted you, the exact time was...
Did you go like the exact speed limit to get out here?
Plead the fifth on that.
Wow, yeah, because we are being recorded. And the statute's probably like 6 months on that. You never know.
Yeah, so unless you want to hold this recording for 6 months.
We're not going to do that. Oh, that's funny. All right, so we should mention that you and I know each other because we work together.
That's right.
We work with a lot of really smart people. You're one of those really smart people, and I'm tolerated, I think is the distinction for the two of us.
Yeah, to be fair, I think I tolerate most people in life. So, you know.
You try really hard.
Yeah, I do my best, for the little people.
So I'm going to start here with you. You are one of three people that we work with, and we have a couple hundred, 250 people that we work with. Three of you got 800 on the math SAT, which is otherworldly to me because towards the end, and I took the SAT a long time ago, but I remember I'm not even going to try this question because I'm not sure what's going on here. But for you, when you took it, and you took it 9 years ago, when you took it, it's like, oh, this is all really straightforward and easy for me. Is that fair?
Yeah, I really like test taking in general, and the SAT I always looked forward to it because, I thought it was so much fun.
I did not look forward to it.
I didn't like waking up early on a Saturday, like that part wasn't
Yeah,
fun.
because you had to wait. Why is it early all the time?
Because they hate us.
It should start around 2 in the afternoon.
The whole test is like, how can I trip people up, right? Like, especially the SAT. It's not like, let me test your intelligence. It's like, let me ask a really simple question in like the most ridiculous way possible. And so they're like, what would be even better?
Is that true for math and verbal?
Oh yeah, the whole test. The verbal even more so.
Yeah.
Because the SAT verbal is the most ridiculous part. The math section of the SAT is actually, in my opinion, easier than that of the ACT, the competing test, because it really only covers like Algebra 1. Whereas the ACT, they cover like trig, more geometry, some pre-cal, like there's a whole lot more scope. But the math on the SAT is like 95% Algebra 1, but they just like ask it in such a way.
It's weird.
Especially their no calculator section, which always freaks people out because in America, it's like, if I don't have a calculator, am I even thinking right now? So they're like, the second the kids see no calculator, they just like die.
They flip out.
Yeah. But the reason they do that is, you don't really need a calculator, but they're really trying to test your understanding in that section, not like, can you plug this into a calculator and get an answer?
Can you do data entry?
Yeah, and honestly, if you had a calculator, it probably wouldn't help you on that section at all. So
weird. And you know a lot about SATs now because you tutor kids.
Yeah, I've been tutoring since I was in high school myself for the SAT. So
the SAT was so easy for you. You were tutoring other kids.
So I first took the SAT when I was 12 because...
Why did you take it when you were 12?
Because why not, right? Why climb Everest?
Did somebody say, hey, you should go take it now? Or you're like, no, I'd love to go take this right now?
I was 12, so, I was a little early for the teen angst, but it was strong. So I wasn't saying I'd love to do anything.
So when you were 12, you felt like you were 16.
Basically, yeah. I still do those. That's still an accurate description of me. My mom would agree. So I was in Johns Hopkins Center for Talented Youth programs, and they had summer camps, we call it nerd camp. You'd go to
when I was younger, I would probably call it that too.
Yeah, we all did lovingly,
Sure.
So during the summer, you would go to a college campus where you would stay for a few weeks and camp. You had some camp-like activities, but during the day, Monday through Friday, you were taking a class. And so in order to stay in that program past 7th grade, you had to take the SAT, and you had to get a certain score.
What was the certain score? Do you remember?
I don't remember the score. I do remember what I got. So I got an 1850 out of 2400. I remember I got 580 reading, 630 math, 640 writing. Okay. At that time, and
I think you beat my. We called it verbal back in the day.
Well,
you said reading, writing, and so the
math, because it was a 2400. That was
right.
The first year I think that they actually gave the 2400 from the 16 before they went back.
The 12-year-old version of you beat the 17-year-old version of me on the reading part.
If it makes you feel better, I'm pretty sure I beat more than 50%.
It makes me feel a little better, maybe.
But I've been an avid reader my whole entire life. well, not recently because Netflix, right? But before then, I've been reading like forever. My mom bought the whole Barnes and Noble's like classics collection, and I would just sit and read anything, everything, Russian, English, whatever.
Really?
Yeah.
Those are tough reads for a lot of people.
Yeah, but I don't know what it was. Like I didn't read English till I was like probably 4 or 5. I didn't know English till I was
You were reading, writing, and speaking Russian?
Russian, yeah. That was my first language, and then my mom sent me to Packard Collegiate, which took me 2 hours a day to get to.
Oh my!
One way. It was in Brooklyn.
Hold on. Let's back up. You were born in New York City metro area.
Yes.
Do we want to talk about exactly where you were born?
Sure. I was born in Oyster Bay, Long Island, but I never, on the record, I never lived in Long Island. Okay. I was just happened to be born in the hospital.
You lived maybe 2 days.
Like maybe. Yeah. Like top.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you rather be born in Long Island or Staten Island?
Man,
that's a tough one, isn't it?
What's the lesser of two evils? I don't know. Probably Long Island.
We've just offended at least 4 of my listeners with this conversation.
Perfect. If I'm not offending, I'm not living. So.
All right. So you and your mom lived in Queens at the time?
Yeah, I lived in Queens at the time. It's where my grandparents lived. And then before I turned 1, my mom moved to the Bronx. So that's where I spent like 1 through 18.
Does that automatically make you a Jets fan? Being from the Bronx?
I would think most people would say no because the Yankees are in the Bronx, and usually it's like Yankees Giants.
Right.
Right. And if you were from Queens, you're usually a Mets fan, and then it's Mets Jets. But I don't know. I just saw I think when I was younger, I just like the color green, and so I saw someone wearing a green hoodie one day, and it said Jets.
That's it.
And then I was a Jets fan.
And you're loyal from then
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. No matter. It doesn't matter how many times we lose. It's never going to change.
They don't seem to be fully invested in winning.
That's one way to describe our attitude. I like to say that we're in a rebuilding decade, but I've been saying that for about 2 decades now.
Yeah, so, it's going to get to a century at some point, maybe.
Yeah, it's been what, 50 some years since our Super Bowl win, Super Bowl 3 it was.
3, we just played 55, so it's been 52.
Yeah. So, at least we have one.
You do have one.
So that's, on the record. We have that one.
Yeah, there are 8 teams that have never won one, so you're not part of that crew.
Yeah, so the thing I do like about football though is in theory it's because of how the draft picks are designed. It's supposed to be cyclical almost, right? The worse you are, the better picks you get, and so the better your team is, and then it kind of
and then you win, and you get the last pick of the first round.
Look at the Buffalo Bills, right? 90s, great team.
Yeah.
And then mid 2000s, just trash.
And now they're kind of back.
And now they're coming back. So it seems to happen like that for most teams, except for the Jets. It just seems to have gone one way and stayed.
Well, how deep you want to go on the Jets? Because the Adam Gase hire was ridiculous. They clearly told the rest of the NFL they weren't trying to win.
Yeah, our ownership has made some questionable choices in hiring.
You're being polite, I think.
And I'm not I won't pretend to know everything that there is to know about what to look for in head coaches and this and that, but it just seems ridiculous to me that we always just double down on bad ideas, right? It's
oh, you think it's a bad idea? Yeah. I'm going to go even farther.
Yeah,
this bad
this isn't working. Let's do it harder, right? And expect different results. So that's the part that just drives me wild because
it's a little crazy.
I can put up with 1 or 2 losing seasons. If it's hey, look, we just got to lose for right now, but we're building to something better. Just be patient. That's fine. But you keep trying to do these one-off
weird
trades
moves,
and whatever that are just that are going to bring us from 0 to 100. I don't think so.
It doesn't work that way ever.
Yeah.
Ever. All right. So when you were a little kid, before you were 12, going to should I call it nerd camp?
Nerd camp is fine. Okay. Yeah.
Before you went to nerd camp, what were you doing as a younger kid? Were you just voraciously reading everything you get your hands on?
Yeah, I didn't really have much of a life until high school, except for the summers. The summers I would go to. It's not a trailer park. It's a trailer community.
Trailer community in the Bronx?
No, it's in Pennsylvania.
I hope you say the Poconos because that fits.
Yeah, it was by the Poconos.
I love it.
Yeah, it's in Goldsboro, Pennsylvania. Okay. It's called Eagle Lake, and it was advertised in Russian newspapers. And because here's the thing about Russians, right? everyone in Russia had a dacha or like a vacation home. It didn't matter, rich, poor, whatever. It was normal. So when my family moved to the United States, they were like, we need a dacha. Now they didn't have a lot of money, so they were like, great, trailer, right? Like,
everybody needs a dacha.
Probably less than 10 grand at the time. Probably like literally a couple of grand, and you can have yourself a whole vacation home.
Yeah.
And so so just to be clear, no wheels on the trailer. There's no wheels. All right.
Because that would be a mobile home.
Right. No. We were maybe like a step above.
But you weren't in the city. It was a way to get away from the city.
Yeah, and it was all Russian kids. Over time, like that changed. But all my friends there when I was younger were all Russian kids from New York. So, I met my best friend to this day. I met there when I was like 3.
What's her or his name?
Michelle. Yeah, Michelle.
Shout out to Michelle.
Shout out to Michelle. Love you. Won't say that often, but she'll be so surprised. But yeah, so that's what I did for kind of all my, even when I was going to nerd camp, like the rest of the summer I would go here. And it was kind of my favorite place in the world. Like it still is. I actually like recently looked up like, are there any, homes available there? Because
you have that much of an affinity for it.
Oh yeah, I want to go back. Like I love that place. And my grandpa like built a shed and he built out a deck and we had raspberry bushes growing out front until he mowed them down. I was so upset. But yeah, it was just like, it was, there was a lake, obviously it's called Eagle Lake.
Yeah.
And there's 2 beaches and a pool, I have an arcade, bingo night. What else do you need? Right?
It's great being a kid then.
Yeah, they had like free programs like for kids, like to do fun activities, like arts and crafts and stuff.
And everybody was Russian back then.
Yeah. I mean, and granted, like, I was little, so everyone in my world was Russian, right? But as I got older, I noticed that it became like, there's still as many Russians, but now I was seeing like we had Americans, we called them, and then Italians. So there was Russians, Americans, as if the Italians aren't American, right? As if the Russians
or the
American.
Russians, yeah.
Yeah, right. But that was like, but we all kind of started meshing more as we got older. But when you're little, it's like you're just friends with like whatever families are directly around you and your parents or whatever.
Yeah, and you tend to be a little more adventurous as you get older. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was that's what I did.
Right,
and then,
so you mentioned your grandfather, you mentioned your mom. Let's talk about your family history really quickly.
Oh God.
Starting with, I guess.
Very quickly is not gonna.
I'm mostly kidding with you on the very quickly. Grandpa, tell me about your grandpa.
My grandpa was the best. He was just, I don't know. He was just the best. He was born, in very close to Belarus. I don't know, like I'm a really bad person, but I don't know exactly like where.
You're not a bad person. You may not be great at geography as well.
Yeah, terrible at geography. Like if you ask me, show me a map, or like where's Arizona? Like I don't know. I know it's like south and
west of where we are.
But yeah, I might hit New Mexico. Like I don't know.
Well, they can be
They're
confusing.
right next to each other.
They
right?
are. Yes, they are.
See, I know things.
You know more than the average bear.
But yeah, so he was, he was born there, and I think he was born in 1924.
So he was born in the Soviet Union, just has to be what is modern day Belarus.
Yeah. And he had an older sister at the time, Manya. His name was Vladimir.
Well, say that again.
Vladimir.
What did you call him?
Vladimir.
You said you didn't have a grandpa name for him?
Oh, I called him Deda.
Okay.
Or Dedushka, which was just grandpa or gramps, I guess, is the equivalent.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he was, just growing up, doing his thing, and around 16 years old, World War II hit, right? So he's 16. His, and this is kind of like one of my, not favorite stories, but like one of those stories where you hear it and you're like, wow, the way the world works is so, I don't know, like if you ever believe in like fate, right? Or like it has to be a thing, right? So every summer he used to go to visit his like his grandma or something, like by like somewhere by Ukraine, and he did that every year. And his older sister Manya wouldn't. I don't know why, but he would go, she would do something else, and for some reason one summer when he was around 16, she went instead. And that was the year that the Nazis invaded.
That's the only time that it happened.
And that's when they invaded the village she was in.
Oh, wow.
So at that point, his mom is like losing her mind, right? She's like, my daughter is being held by Nazis. So she takes a train to, this.
Was this 39, 40?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she takes a train there, and there was a Russian soldier at the train station, and he wouldn't let her through because if he had, she would have been killed.
Mm.
So he was like, you have to go back. Like, I can't let you. And she's there. You can imagine, like, desperate attempt to save her child, right? And he wouldn't let her through, sent her home, and she died there.
Oh.
My grandpa's sister, my great aunt.
Oh.
She was, I think they put all the Jews there in a ghetto, and eventually
she died because she was Jewish.
Yeah, she died because she was Jewish. They killed like the whole area, all of them. I don't think they even made it to a concentration camp. I think they just killed them there. And like I think they even made them like dig their own graves at the time. So, but like that kind of like, well, it was like it could have been him. It could have so easily been him, right? But it wasn't.
It's not like every other time it would have been.
Yeah, it would have been him. And for some reason, for some twist of fate, right, it wasn't. And if it had been him, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, you're
exactly.
here. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's crazy, but I think that like that concept of like the Holocaust and World War II, like in my family has been like a prevailing theme in kind of our culture and a lot of things like that like a lot of the opinions we've held and a lot of like the ways we've chosen to live our lives. But anyway, so he was 16 and this happened, and he went into the Army. Technically I think it was the Air Force. I don't know how much of an Air Force you have, but he was some sort of engineer. He was doing something on the parts until he was 21. I think that's about when the war ended. And at 21,
so he was in the Air Force as a 16-year-old?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. He ran away. And there's no internet. Like they're not going to check how old he is. He just went.
They didn't care.
Yeah, they also didn't care. Yeah. And so he comes back home. He's 21. He never finished high school. And at that time, again, no internet, so no one could check if you finished high school or not when you applied to college. So, so he lied and said, "Yeah, I finished high school," and he got accepted into in Moscow. They were living in Moscow at the time, so he got accepted into like the science and math university that they have there, and it was really, really hard because he missed a lot of school.
He didn't have the foundation.
Yeah, and in Russia, you like we're very serious about our maths and science there, right? Like they don't joke around. So, and of course he was an engineer. He became an engineer. So he was studying exactly the topics that he'd missed out on. So he was like doing night school, working, catching up, and anyway, so he graduated and he ended up becoming in Moscow. He was an engineer and he was head of a lab, like 50 people, and everyone loved him. Like in every like government run organization, there were always like KGB people there that like they wouldn't tell you, but like they were. My grandpa was friends with them. Yeah. A Jew was friends with them, right? Which was like a big thing.
Yeah. They probably weren't obvious about their relationships, but.
Yeah, but like you knew, it was like everyone knew. But my grandpa was one of those people where he just like lived to make people laugh, and number one for him was always his family, like 100%. But he was always like such a amiable person. So anyway, so he's doing that. His whole life is there, right? He has 2 kids, and in like 1978, 79, my family decides to come here to the U.S. because at that point the U.S. was like, hey, sorry that we like didn't let some of you guys in all those years ago, but like now we'll take you as refugees. So the only people that were getting out of
You're talking about the Jewish community.
Yeah, the Jewish community. Yeah. So the only people that were really allowed to leave the Soviet Union were Jews. Like the Soviet Union wasn't letting non-Jews leave. Like it was a big thing. Like some of the most famous like Russian authors like escaped. Like Bunin escaped. Yeah. And like they like shot like you couldn't read a Bunin book after that. Like it was they were like real upset about it. Yeah. So Jews could just say like, hey, we're going to like Israel, like like our motherland or whatever, and Russia would be like, okay, thanks, bye. And so all the Jews would stop by Israel and then get a plane ticket to the U.S. and come here as refugees. The problem was that whatever my grandpa was working on, I don't know, he couldn't leave yet. So he actually had to get a divorce from my grandma. And she came here with my mom and my uncle.
So to enable your grandmother to come over, your grandfather
Yep.
said, I guess we're getting divorced.
Yep. And you know, the Soviet Union had a bunch of really like weird rules about like leaving children. Like men actually had to sign, like if you wanted to like leave, your father had to sign saying that you didn't owe him any like financial stuff and that you could go. Like this could be someone who you never saw in your entire life, and they would have to like sign off that you didn't owe them any sort of like support before you could leave the country. But yeah, so they came to the U.S. and my grandpa came 2 years later, and they came to Milwaukee. And
It's an obvious place to go.
yeah, naturally, right? When you think Jewish immigration to the U.S., you think Milwaukee. I think there was like a Jewish center there that like one of their things was like to get refugees, like Soviet Union, like refugees here. And, you know, I don't know exactly who connected with who, but they came and, you know, they helped set my family up. And my mom ended up, you know, at that point going to college there. She went to University of Wisconsin, Madison, and all that. But yeah, so he came over, he was 60 something at that point, no, 80, so almost 60 years old, right? Like, and left everything, all his friends, all his, everything. And,
because they thought the life would be better here.
yeah, well, cause like I think, one of the stories I heard was like my uncle, for example, was denied access to the university my grandpa went to, because he was Jewish. So there was like a lot of, you know, anti-Semitism going on, and they were just like, yeah, you know, I feel like my family at least, and at least this is what they say, they're like, you know, Jewish culture, right? It's like, it's always thinking about your kids. So whatever the best move for kids and the future generations of kids were, that's what we had to do.
Yeah.
And they came here, you know, and so like.
What happened to your grandmother?
She came here too. She came. She died when I was 4, so I just didn't like ever. You know, I didn't get to know her.
But
very well.
Grandma and Grandpa reconnected.
Yes, they reconnected. I don't know if they ever officially got married again. I think it was probably financially better for them not to. But my grandma was a lawyer, and like again, I keep saying fun, maybe not fun, but like I think one of my favorite stories about her that I felt was like really telling about just like character and my family's like priorities was. Back in, you know, Soviet Union, getting food was hard. Like everyone was hungry.
There were lines everywhere.
Lines everywhere, exactly. Like it wasn't like super fun. And she was, you know, she was in law school, she was studying, and she was hungry all the time. And one of the girls she knew, one of her friends, worked at a bakery. And so she goes to my grandma and she's like, hey, like we have a job opening. Just drop out of school. Work with me. You'll get all the bread you want. You'll feed your family. Like, no, you guys won't be hungry anymore. And so my grandma goes to her mom and she's like, you know, I want to do this. Like, I'm hungry. I'm tired. I'm over it. And her mom said, over my dead body, you finish school. Like, she was like, if you're hungry, we'll find a way. We'll figure it out.
Right.
We'll get food somewhere, but you're going to finish school.
It's hard to concentrate when you're hungry. When you're that hungry, and that's a different level.
But that was our way out, you know? It was like if you're in a bad place and you need to get out of there, what do? You go to school.
Yeah. Right?
Like you get that education, you get that knowledge, and then you like climb your way out of there. And so, yeah, so they came here and, you know, at that point, like they were kind of too old to start any sort of career or, you know, plus they didn't speak English. So my grandpa, like, you know, he died this past July, and I mean, he spoke more English than he thought he did, but it definitely wasn't, you know, he wasn't fluent at all. So,
well, he was speaking Russian until he was in his 60s.
Yeah. He's probably the primary reason I still speak Russian, because if I didn't have to speak with him my whole life, you know, I could have easily just forgotten it or lost it.
Are you fluent now?
Fluent with an asterisk, like, you know, my vocabulary in Russian is nowhere near as extensive as it is in English. And I can understand more than you know, sometimes I struggle to find words, right? Like it's at the tip of my tongue, but I've forgotten the specific word. But I can carry on many a conversation in Russian just fine, and I can understand it. So I'm fluent, but not as like fully fluent as I am in English.
I don't speak any Russian. And I have a couple questions for you that I'd like for you to respond in Russian, if you're okay doing this.
Sure.
It can either be about the Jets or it can be about Duke basketball.
So do I know bad words or good words? Is the
Let's go with Duke basketball.
All right.
Coach K, Coach Krzyzewski, announced he's retiring after the 21-22 season. What are your thoughts on his retirement? Nothing but Russian, please.
Oh God, what a struggle! This is really testing the limits of
I'm mostly messing with you. Just give me some Russian phrases that have nothing to do with Coach K. Just fun to hear Russian.
Fun to hear Russian. Моя имя Миля.
Your name is Amelia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Миля, yeah, exactly. Русский мой первый язык. Я из Нью-Йорка, но моя семья из Москвы, из России и из Одессы, Украины. Я сейчас живу в Ричмонде. Я очень люблю мою маму, и я очень любила моего дедушку. И не знаю, что еще сказать, но да.
Yeah, nice. What did you say?
I said a lot of random things. I said, my name is Mila from the Bronx or from New York. I love my mom. I really love my grandpa, and I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
when I think Russian, I think like, my family. That's like when I use it.
Yeah.
So it's like I have a lot of like just basic conversational stuff like with them that just pops into mind. But
Yeah, I only understood da at the end.
yeah, I was like, yeah. I don't think people even say that. Like,
Really?
yeah, I don't think they say like da. I think it's more like nu. It's like nu korotche, like, but.
All right, I threw us off with the whole Russian thing.
Yeah, this is your fault.
Yes, my apologies. So, very sad your grandfather died over what I would call the pandemic summer, but he did not die related to COVID.
No. He fell, he broke his hip, or I don't know, he had to get surgery, and he got the surgery, and after that, it just kind of went downhill. Like, he just kept getting infection after infection. His mind, like, he was 95 when he passed away, and his mind was sharp.
It's
like,
unbelievable.
He was playing chess, Sudoku. He kept track of like all of his receipts and all of his finances. Like, he would just like make lists and add things up, and like, I mean, he was an engineer, right? Like, he's all about that, and so his mind was to the end was just as sharp as it could be. He even had a stroke a few years ago. We didn't notice for 2 weeks, and no one knew. Yeah,
he knew, right?
No,
he didn't know either.
He didn't even know. No, like, and we just one day we realized like, hey, he just said something that doesn't really make sense. So we got him checked out, and they were like, yeah, he had a stroke a few weeks ago, and after that, like, even still, his mind was sharper than most people I met, meet now. But yeah, something about after his hip surgery, and the doctor said that like that's kind of what happens, right? Is for whatever reason, it's not like purely scientific. Like, we don't really know exactly why people start to shut down at an old age when they get these surgeries, and that's why they're so dangerous. It's not the surgery itself,
right?
Pretty common.
It's can they recover from
yeah, it's that. And he was on a ventilator for like 3 months, and he was, but the thing is, it wasn't like, oh, grandpa's on a ventilator, time to say goodbye. Like, he was fighting. He
Clearly.
wanted to live.
Yeah.
He was holding on. He was getting better. We were weaning him off. And there was one point when I first came to see him, because, I live here in Richmond, and he had been like on a ventilator for a little while, and he wasn't doing well. He wasn't responsive. They kept him sedated, because once they have, with the ventilator, it's in your, body, and it's uncomfortable. So they keep you sedated, and I came to see him, and he just he just improved so much. He came back.
He lit up.
He came back, and I visited him a few more times, and he started like, joking around. Like, he was always thirsty and hungry because you can't really feed him, and there was like a TV playing there in front of him. Again, it's all in English. He doesn't understand. But there's like fast food commercials on it. And I was like, I made a joke. I was like, Grandpa, they won't feed you, but like, this is all they're showing. And he started laughing.
It's kind of cruel.
Yeah, he started laughing, with his, whatever. But, and he had like, he got MRSA, which is really, antibiotic resistant staph infection while he was there. He got like so many infections, but he was beating them all. Like, he was getting worse, and then he was just 2 infections at a time, he was knocking him out.
Tough dude.
Yeah, like he was just, I mean, he really wanted to live. He really, he really wanted to be around. But at the end, like, it was just, everything was just too much. His lungs weren't taking it. He was respirating like food and
this is in New York, right?
Yeah, this was in New York.
When did they move to New York?
They moved. So after my mom graduated, and then she moved to North Carolina to work for IBM for a few years, and then after that, she moved to New York. So whenever she moved to New York, my grandparents moved with her, and my uncle was in Minnesota at the time, and he still is, and that's where he raised his family. But my mom, she was a younger sibling, and so the parents stayed with her. And so my grandpa, I think they must have been there since at least the beginning of the 90s.
So he was in New York a lot.
Yeah, he was in New York for a very long time.
Yeah.
And he had his own apartment too. He always lived by himself. That was very important to him to have his independence, and he was never a burden on anybody. He would always save enough. He even saved enough to cover like most of his, expenses, and yeah, so.
Probably why his brain was highly functional even to the end.
Oh yeah. And he was. I went to math school for 7 years after like school.
What do you mean math school?
So it was just like a Russian run, like.
What ages were you?
I was 8 to like 15 or 7 to 14.
Okay.
Something like that. And he would drive from Manhattan, and he was like lower Manhattan, so he was almost by Brooklyn.
Right.
To pick me up in the Bronx, drive me to Brooklyn for math school, drive me back to the Bronx, and go home. And he did this twice a week for 7 years. And sometimes during the summer,
out of love.
Yeah. Sometimes during the summer, he would even drive me from the Poconos to Brooklyn on Sundays and back. Yeah.
That's a haul. I've made that drive. That's not easy.
He also, when I started going to concerts, I was young, I was 12. He would come and sit with earplugs.
All right, I don't want to open up the door just yet to punk rock. Was it punk rock when you were 12?
I mean, it was. I thought like I would have called it punk rock when I was 12. I now call it like pop punk.
Okay.
But to me, I was pretty punk.
Yeah, pop punk is like the antitheses of each other, right?
Yeah, but it's a huge genre now.
Okay. I'm on the lost touch.
I know what you mean. It's like like Avril Lavigne is like pop punk.
Yeah, that's not punk.
Well, yeah, but
it's not classic punk.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah. All right, so math school. It was taught by a Russian entity.
Yeah, it's Russian. This Russian guy, like professor, I guess. I don't really know what he was in Russia, but.
Did you want to go to math school after school?
Absolutely not. Did I want to go? My house is not a democracy.
So who wanted you to go, Mom?
My mom. Yeah. She was putting me in these nerd camps. She was putting me in these programs. She was putting me in math school.
So none of this was voluntary for you?
Absolutely not. No. I mean, am I thankful? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But at the time, very resentful, very mad, did not want to do it. But it helped because I actually skipped 2 grades in math in my middle school. And so by the time I got to high school, I started high school in honors pre-calc in 9th grade.
And they ran out of math for you by the time you graduated.
Well, my high school was a math science specialized high school, so I was actually I took honors pre-cal 9th, and then 10th grade I took AP Calc BC, and then in 11th grade I took AP Stats, and I took Calc 4, which is linear algebra, and differential equations, and then 12th grade I took multivariable calculus.
You lost me going into 11th grade.
Yeah, but yeah, and I actually I had to take a test to get into the my high school because it was public, but it was like specialized, like it's Bronx science. We actually have I think 9 Nobel Prize winners from there. Yeah, we have a really famous debate team. I was not on it, but
you could have been.
Yeah.
You enjoyed debate.
I get a little too emotional, I think, especially at the time.
You have to be measured, I guess.
Yeah, but since then, I feel like I've definitely appreciated more of like structured debate more than I used to. But
right.
But yeah, so we were one of the top high schools. Like there's also Stuyvesant, which is kind of like our rivals in our heads.
Did you guys have sports teams?
We did, but we didn't have a football team. We did have ultimate frisbee though, so I feel like
that's perfect.
I feel like that speaks volumes of who we were. And yeah, like we were the Wolverines. But I don't think I ever went to a game. Like school spirit was not high. We didn't have a field.
You mean for you personally or across the board?
Across the board, yeah. We didn't have a field. We didn't have a field that was just. We had another public high school behind us called Clinton. We used their field sometimes, but we didn't have one. But anyway, so you had to take a test to get in when you were in like 8th grade or so, and it was out of 400. There was a math section out of 4, and maybe it was combined out of 4. I honestly can't remember, but I think it was math out of 4 and then reading out of 400.
Right.
And I can't prove this because I don't they didn't tell you what you got at the end. Like you
still don't know to this day.
No, you didn't. All you would do is you would take the test and you would list in order what schools you wanted to go to, and they each had their own cutoff. And the first school who was the highest in your list, whose cutoff you met, that's where you were going. You didn't have options. Yeah. Right. So you better rank that shit right.
Yeah. You better be serious about your ranking.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how it worked. And you didn't tell me. But later, the head of our math department at the time, she told me that I had gotten the highest math score of my whole entire grade in the entrance exam. So I'm assuming it was like the 400.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was all thanks to this math school.
Yeah. Well, 7 years of after school math school.
Yeah.
That's hardcore math.
It did it. Yeah.
So you ended up, let's go back to the SATs because I think you rattled off out of your 24 and you got 1850 when you were 12.
Oh, that's right.
How many more times did you take it?
I took it 2 more times.
For somebody who enjoyed taking it, I would have thought you would have taken it 4 or 5.
Yeah, but you also, when you tell colleges, you don't want to tell them you took it too many times because then you look a little ridiculous.
Yeah, okay, got it.
So I took it 2 more times and then I took SAT 2s.
What are SAT 2s?
They're subject tests. So they are 1 hour, 60 questions. And they are on a variety of subjects. You could take chemistry. You could take math again.
Most colleges don't ask for that, though, right?
Well, the ones I was applying to do.
All right, let's talk about the ones you applied.
Sorry,
well, let's back up. It was always out of 2400 through high school for you.
Yeah, it was out of 2400.
And what was your best score out of the 2400?
Well, my super score, which is like 2380.
I have a kid in college, so yeah. 2380?
2380.
Oh, come on, Mila.
I know.
Come on.
Only 20 points.
Where did you screw up? Where was the 20-point loss?
I got an 800 in math, 790 reading, 790 writing.
So you missed one of each.
Yeah, I'm big mad. But
did you want to take it a 4th time?
I mean, I wasn't that ridiculous. Like, I was like, you know what, take it and go. Like, it's fine.
It'd get you into any school in the country.
Yeah, it definitely helped. And then on my SAT 2s, I took Math 1, Math 2, and Literature. And then I got, I think, 800 in my Math 1. I think I was like 15 or something. And then Math 2, the most embarrassing moment of my life, I got a 760. I don't want to talk about it.
It's awful.
I know. I almost got disowned. And then Literature, I got 730. I think I'm most proud of that test because that was the hardest.
Yeah.
Like, it was 60 minutes, 60 questions, and you had to read like
a lot,
like old British stuff,
it's
poetry,
hard
like
to read.
whole,
730, and that's impressive. Yeah. All right. So where'd you apply besides Duke?
So I applied to Duke. Here's what happened. Here's my mom again at Action. Right. She was like, okay, we're gonna apply. And by the way, since I was in kindergarten,
Is your mom gonna enjoy this story?
Oh God. Maybe. Since I was in like kindergarten, she has been planning my college. Like she was very serious about it.
And you're an only kid.
I'm an only child. Yeah. On my mom's side. Yeah. And so she had been thinking about this a lot more than I had. Right. Like to the point where I think I got my first pop quiz in high school in honors bio, which she made me take. By the way, I didn't want to do honors bio, but again, no choices here. I got a C, and she grounded me for 2 months.
What did grounded look like? Like you couldn't leave the house except to go to school?
That's it.
Yeah.
And to be, in her defense, she had never grounded me before. She was just learning what grounding is. So instead of doing the normal route of like you're grounded for a week, she was like, 2 months sounds fair. right? Like, let's
But she had,
start
nothing, she had
there.
nothing to base that on.
No, she was like, well, that, in her mind, right? It was like, my child gets a C. She's obviously messing around, like 2 months. And then if, any
Were you messing around or you just weren't getting it?
I mean, it was like week 2. Oh, God knows. Like, I
You got
probably was messing around. I don't know. I just got to high school.
You got grounded for 2 months over something that happened the first 2 weeks of school.
Yep. First 2 weeks of high school. Yep.
Oh, man.
Yep. She was not playing around. She was like, you're in high school now. All this goes to your GPA for college. Like, that's it. The only grade that didn't was gym. And that's why she didn't care. I kept getting D's in gym and I kept cutting. So, which is incidentally why I would cut gym, because I knew it wouldn't count towards my GPA.
Right.
So who's going to yell at me?
What
right?
did you get in honors bio by the end of the year?
I think honors bio was one of my, so I got a B plus, but I had a really, the professor was like great, like the professor's teacher, right? High school's teacher.
Right.
But she was great, but she was so great that her tests were so hard.
Yeah.
And I ended up taking the Regents, which is the New York State exams, right? That every public school kid has to take. I got a 99 in the bio Regents.
But a B plus.
But I thought I was I thought I was so stupid.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know anything about bio 99. She had taught me that well, right?
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I ended up getting, I think I had like a 4.0 GPA at the end. So it worked out. But so anyway, so in her normal form, she was like, you're going to apply early, and we chose Duke.
When was Duke chosen?
Probably about a week before those
Okay.
applications were due.
But you were your mom's plan when you were in kindergarten was you were going to have an excellent chance of getting in
Exactly.
anywhere you wanted.
It was top 20. That was the goal, right? Like that was how she would. And then as I got older, we started thinking about, like, for a long time I wanted to go to NYU because they had a music business major, and I really love music. And then when I got a little bit older, it was Columbia. It's still very New York based. We visited a bunch of schools. We visited Chicago, Northwestern. I visited Stanford. I went to Nerd Camp at Stanford, but yeah, and I actually never visited Duke before I showed up on first day of college.
Wow.
I'd never been there. Because everywhere I went, like, I was such a New Yorker, I was like, this is terrible. Like, where's the life? It's dead here.
Yeah, it's not in that part of Carolina either.
Yeah.
New York life, anyway.
But that was part of it. Like, honestly, by that time, I was so, like, just done. I just want to get in somewhere. I'm so tired. Like, I was filling out, applications all summer.
So you applied to all those places.
Well, so I applied early to Duke, which means, like, by the time, so early apps were due by November 1st. And if you did not get in somewhere early, then you had to do regular admission, and those were due, like, at the end of December.
Right.
But you only were told, like, the admission was only told to you, like, a week before those other ones were due. So she was like, okay, great, we just submitted your early app for Duke. You're not going to fill out 17 more applications.
17 more?
17. I applied to Harvard. I applied to Yale. I applied to Princeton. I applied to UChicago. I applied to Rice, Vanderbilt.
So 18 of the top 20 schools.
I applied, like, literally everywhere. And I even started doing interviews. So I interviewed with Harvard. I interviewed with Yale. I interviewed with Rice. And the lady that I interviewed with at Harvard, after I got in, I had to rescind all my applications because Duke is early decision, not early action. So once you get in, you're in.
Yeah.
That's it. So I had to rescind all my applications, and I had to do the whole, like, hey, thanks for interviewing me. Sorry for wasting your time.
So you don't know whether you would have gotten into those schools?
No, but the lady at Harvard replied, and she was like, I forget, she wasn't just an interviewer. She, like, had some role that she played at the school, and I remember she said, like, I'm sure you'll do great wherever, like, thanks for letting me know. I thought you would have made a great fit here. And I was like, oh, man. Not, like, looking back, I think I made the right call. Like, I think Duke was
I think you're fine either
the
way.
right place for me, but, I'm very competitive, so it would have been nice to just know that I'd gotten in,
But early decision's the way to go, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, like, a lot of stress was, relieved. Like, senioritis never happened because it was like, you could still get rejected, right?
Right.
But it was still, it was a load off, at least for a few months, to say, okay, my next step is clear now, instead of having to worry until May or, whenever these kids are getting their regular decision results back. So
Right. The Mila I know today, I can only imagine. Were you 17, 18 when you finished high school?
17.
Yeah. So I can only imagine what the 17-year-old who's only known New York headed down.
It was bad. It was really bad.
To that part of Carolina. So
people didn't understand what I was saying. They couldn't understand my speech. I was like, "Oh, you mad tight," and they're like, "What do you? What?"
So it was word choice and accent.
Yeah, my accent was like, I had to learn how to like.
Was it a mix of New York and Russian?
There was no Russian in the accent. That funnily enough, because it was just all Bronx. It was like New York Bronx. That was it. And then, now like I learned how to talk, right? Or if I'm in New York, I say talk.
Right.
Right, but it switches.
I'm married to a Jersey girl. She flips all the time.
Yeah. It's because we're part of different speech communities.
Yeah.
And so based on which community we're around, we just like.
And you fall in with them because you want to be comfortable and.
Yeah, and you don't even do it on purpose. Like it just happens. So sometimes when I start talking about New York, like it just, like, it just I don't know. It just.
Are there one or two stories from your first month or two at Duke that you remember that is hilarious, or is it just kind of a blur? Like where am I?
God. I mean, the one thing I remember is just being like I was a little bored, to be honest. So like my high school experience like was pretty lively. Like my after school life, like shows and parties and whatever. So I feel like I kind of lived a lot before I got to college. And then I get to college and there's like the one bar that everyone goes to.
There's only one bar in town? Yeah,
Shooters. That's like, there's more than one bar in town, but like Shooters was like really
the most
that was the place, yeah. And like some of the other places were 21 plus.
Right.
And like there was just like Chapel Hill has like, the UNC kids, they had like 15 choices. Like there's tons and tons of stuff. But at Duke there was just like this was it. This or like, your little frat parties, which by the way, we don't have a frat row, right? So there's not like frat houses you go to like maybe their off-campus house or like their little dorm cluster.
So there are no frats at Duke?
We have frats. They just don't have frat houses. They don't have a frat row.
So what do they have? Where do they go?
They have specific sections in campus housing, like dorms, that are sectioned for their frat. And then they can have off-campus houses. But they're not like aligned, all next to each other. They're just random houses.
Not like the University of Georgia has these mansions that are all lined up.
And these are definitely not mansions because if you look at Durham, like it's just some house off campus. There's not enough room for it to be mansion. It's not exactly.
And so when you left Durham, well, you were in the Triangle area, right? So there were other places to go besides Durham, or not, or no?
Yeah, well, for the first year, coming from New York, I didn't have a car. I didn't know how to drive. So
could you bring a car your freshman year?
I didn't have a license.
Yeah, but if you had one, could you have driven? Because like when I went to school, they wouldn't let you drive your freshman year.
No, you could. You could. So freshmen live on a different campus at Duke, and it has its own parking.
So what was the plan for you to get around? You were just.
I didn't think about it. I'd never been a problem my whole entire life. Like in New York, I never had a problem. 18 years.
You and your mom hadn't thought that through?
No, not even a little bit. And then I get there, and I just felt trapped, especially since like me being me. My mom like is still infuriated by this to this day. But like I got there, and immediately I made friends that were like not Duke. Like immediately started dating a guy off campus. He's my current boyfriend, actually.
Oh, nice. Okay. You guys have been together for a while.
Oh no. He's been married since then. It's a whole thing.
Oh, do we want to explore that or not?
We can. It's fine. Like, it's one of my favorite stories.
You're the guest. You should tell one of your favorite stories.
Well, it's favorite because I feel like it's so ridiculous. Maybe another one of those fake things.
I think we're gonna have to talk about it at some point.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
We can do. We can do whenever you want to do it. You're the one keeping me honest and on track here, so you decide where I go. What was I even saying?
You infuriated your mom by spending some time.
Oh yeah, and that was what got me, because I was like after a year I was like I'm relying on these people for rides, and I hated that. I felt trapped.
Yeah.
I couldn't go anywhere. And
you weren't independent.
They have buses, but it's like to get from Durham to Raleigh, which is 20-minute drive, 30 minutes max, right? It was like a 3-hour bus ride because you have to go back to the station, to the depot, and then get on the other bus that goes to wherever, and then they stop running at like 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And you're trapped. So I came home after that first year, and I found a job, and I just saved, and I bought a car.
And got a license.
I actually failed my license test.
2380 on your SAT.
Yeah. It was the driving part I couldn't get.
Got it. It was the physical part.
Yeah. The written part I passed. It was the driving, couldn't quite get there. Not my fault. I'm a fantastic driver.
You were 18 or 19 at this point.
Yeah, I failed my first one, I think, my 18th birthday. I didn't even get to pull out.
And this is you're trying to get to New York State.
Yeah, so I failed twice in New York. So I tried on my 18th birthday, and in New York you have to schedule it like 2 months in advance because there's no room in the DMV, like there's filling up. So, and you can't double schedule either. It's like once you finish one, then you can schedule your other one. So I scheduled it for my 18th birthday. Literally failed without even leaving the parking spot.
How did you do that?
Well, I was about to pull out, and I see a car like a little while back, and in my head, classic overthinker, I was like, so I could wait for them to pass. But then, like in a real life situation, I can't just always be waiting. So the person who's like giving the exam is going to be looking to see that I can actually pull out in like normal traffic conditions, right? So I start to pull out.
You totally overthought it.
Oh yeah, and that that was all going through my head. In like a split second, I had to make the decision: do I pull out or not, right? And I wasn't actually in a driver training car because I had to I had to rent their car to take the test. My mom's car would not have passed the safety inspection of the DMV. Yeah. So I had to take like a driving school car there, and so I had a brake on the passenger side. So I start to pull out, and the instructor, like the DMV person, slams the brake. The car was like, I swear to God, they were speeding. It's not my fault. Like based on the speed limit, they would not have hit me.
But you moved like 6 inches, and then
they're slamming the brakes, and that was a test. They didn't even pull out.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That instructor was waiting to fail you, probably.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Probably.
So how old were you when you finally got your license? Later that summer?
No, so that was my 18th birthday I failed. And then I didn't take it again until the next summer of my 19th birthday. Failed again. My mom then drove me down. I was 19. She drove me down to North Carolina. In North Carolina, you failed today, you come back tomorrow and try again.
Yeah.
So I went there, and I failed the writing test the first time. And it's not even my fault, I swear to God. So their thing, like, I knew that the drinking was 0.08. That's your limit.
Right.
But some dum-dum in the waiting area who was also studying told me it was 0.05. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure it's 0.08. And he was like, no, trust me. I just failed this test yesterday. Like, it's 0.05. And so in North Carolina, it's not like you take the test and then you submit it and then it gets graded. It's like you keep going. And once you get enough wrong, that's it. It just cuts you off.
Right.
And I got that one wrong.
Oof.
And because they were asking me other questions that, of course, I was going to get wrong. Like, what do you do when you see a deer? Like, I don't know. They don't ask that in New York. Like, a deer? Oh, dear. Or, like, what do you do when, like, someone's bright? Like, I don't know.
I don't know that answer. Yeah,
you're supposed to, if someone's brighter and you're whatever, you're supposed to keep your eyes straight and keep going.
Not supposed to flash them back.
Nope, you're just supposed to keep going.
I got that wrong every time.
Yeah. So, anyway, I failed one day, and the next day I came back, I passed.
So was this the beginning of your sophomore year or your
sophomore
junior?
year?
Okay.
Yeah, and then I had a car. And at Duke, your parking was like damn mile away from your dorms. They were like, yeah, please pay us like $500 and park
to be a mile away from your dorm.
Yeah. Also, when there's a football game, please move your car to a completely different part of campus. Like, what am I paying for?
What was school spirit like at Duke?
That was actually one of the reasons I liked Duke. Why Duke was appealing to me was because they were known for it. And again, like my high school, right? School spirit who?
Right.
And so it was crazy. And I was not a lifelong Duke fan, like a lot of people were. Like, I'd not dreamed about this school.
Right.
And I got there, and it's impossible not to be.
It's infectious.
Yeah, it's infectious. It's impossible not to be a fan. And I actually ended up being tent captain.
Please describe tent captain.
Yeah, so like tenting is.
I'm familiar with tenting.
Okay, well, for the listeners who may not be aware.
No, but a captain. There's a captain.
Yeah. So like tenting, like you get like a group of 12 people, and you have to like basically live in a tent, more or less for like about 2 months, 1 month, whatever, depending on what kind of tenting you do. So there's like black, which is like the longest. That's what I was. And then there's like blue tenting, white tenting, and whatever. And it's all leading up to the Duke UNC game because Cameron Indoor Stadium has limited seating. It's about 2,000 for student section, and there's about 6,000 undergrads. So if you want to get in, and we don't have like a raffle, like a lot of schools like UNC and whatever, they'll have like a, just a random.
It's a lottery
ticket. We don't have that. It's like if you want to go to these games, like, okay, prove it.
And so you're going to class
Oh yeah.
during the day and sleeping in a tent at night.
And sleeping in a tent at night. And they had rules. So the tent captain was basically, I was scheduling 12 people. So there was different rules. So for like a month period, we had to have 10 people in the tent at night, every night. And then during the day, there needed to be 2 people there every single hour of the day.
Really?
Yeah. And then after that month,
and you're the one who made sure that happened.
Yep. I looked at people's calendars and schedules, all their activities, their tests. Their
Were you part of the 12? Or
I was part of the 12. So I was also putting in my nightly whatever, and they wouldn't cancel it. Like they wouldn't let you go home until it would drop below 28 degrees. So if it's 29 degrees, have a nice night.
Do the parents know this is going on? I guess they do. Yeah.
Yep. Nobody.
And it's building towards the Carolina game at Duke.
Yep. And they would do these. They had tent checks where, like, because how are you going to enforce this, right? Like, if there's no penalty, why would anybody do this?
Right.
So at any random point in time, they'll do a tent check to make sure that you have the 10 people at night and the 2 people during the day, and they'll do it like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. Some nights they literally did it 2 or 3 times in the middle of the night, and we would have to wake up, put your shoes on.
They woke you up each time?
They woke us up. Because there's this really annoying, like, I'm saying, for months, for years maybe, every time I heard a siren, I thought I would wake up and start getting dressed. Because I thought it was time to get...
Tent check time.
Yeah, tent check time. They have this, like, those microphones that have, like a siren on it.
Yeah.
They would walk around the tent. It was because we were all living in tents in K-ville, Shasheskyville, which is right outside Cameron Indoors, a little grassy lawn.
Yeah.
And they would walk around with it and wake us all up.
That doesn't seem conducive to higher education.
Well, that's what it was. And that's what we had to do. So, the only good thing was that after each tent check, they couldn't do one for another hour minimum. So after, like, you'd get woken up at 3 a.m. and be like, if you want some McDonald's, yeah, let's go. And you just get, like, you had an hour off now until you had to be back.
So out of the 6,000 students, how many wanted to go to the UNC game? All of them?
I mean, probably all of them, realistically. Even I met people there who did not go to a single game, but they wanted to go to that one.
It's the biggest game.
It's the biggest game.
Arguably, it's the biggest game in the country every year.
It is the biggest game in the country. There's no argument about it.
The one at Duke. Not the one at...
Yeah, not the Carolina one.
Yeah.
No, everything about them is just second rate. So.
Do you remember how many games Duke won in those 4 years you were there?
I don't. I think my sophomore year was the year I was most invested. And then my junior and senior years, I got a little bit less so, and I didn't go to as many games. I do remember that the Carolina Duke game I went to, we won. But, we won the championship. Our last championship was my graduating year.
Nice.
So 2015. So
who were the players back then?
We had so Marshall Plumlee was still there, the last of the Plumlee brothers.
Yeah.
And I think he actually stayed an extra year because he redshirted his first season, so he was there for 5 years. And then, this is really sad. I can't remember.
I can't remember
really,
either.
Really sad.
I follow college basketball.
I know during the time there, like we had, I think it was Ryan Kelly. We had obviously Mason and Miles Plumlee. We had Seth Curry, which is funny because when I graduated, that's when Steph Curry was like doing like all those crazy things. That was kind of his season in the NBA, and I was like, "Oh, Steph, you mean Seth's brother?" And I think probably like the rest of the nation was like, "You mean Seth, like Steph's brother, right?" And I was like, "No, Seth."
Yeah,
like Seth, he's the main one.
There were a lot of schools that looked past Steph, to include Duke. His dad went to Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech didn't really have interest in Steph. It was crazy. And Seth was good in college. And he plays in the pros now, right? Pretty sure he still plays.
Seth?
Yeah.
I think last time I looked him up, he was playing somewhere. I mean, I don't follow the NBA, to be honest, so I wasn't sure. But what was weird, I think he was injured like all season, so he wouldn't even practice. He would just show up and kill at the games. Just sinking 3-pointers like all day.
That's what their dad did with his sons. They just shot threes all the time.
Yeah, he was great. But yes, and some of the best games we had those years were like a Ohio State game. We had a big revenge game there. They'd beaten us, and when they came home, it was like to the wire.
And Duke
we won. We won. Yeah, and it's a Syracuse game where what's his name? Jim
Boeheim.
Yeah, with the meme of him like throwing his like jacket.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, he like flipping. He had to get escorted out. That was during my time there.
It was at Cameron.
Yeah, it was like Cameron.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got big mad.
Every time Syracuse and Duke played each other, I wasn't sure who I wanted to win and who I wanted to lose. Because I wanted both of them to lose.
Yeah, you hated us both so much. Yeah. I had a lot of friends that went to Syracuse because it's in New York.
Right.
So I loved it when they joined the ACC because they weren't always like they joined while I was in Duke.
Yeah, they weren't part of the original 8. Yeah.
And Maryland left because they couldn't handle us.
They ran after money in the Big Ten for whatever reason.
Yeah. Also, they couldn't handle us, so there's that. They kept trying to make us a rivalry, and we were like, "Yeah, that's cute." Like
this is the part where you start talking smack.
Oh yeah, we're getting to the real part of the
the real Mila show.
Yeah, the real Mila show. What Paul's been waiting for this whole time.
Well, let's talk about academics. Were you a math major?
Yeah, I got I was a math and philosophy double major and an econ minor.
Why philosophy?
I love philosophy. I took a philosophy class at Nerd Camp when I was like 14, and it was philosophy of mind, like the mind-body problem. It was fascinating to me. And I got to college. At first, I was going to be math and econ double major, and then I realized that econ wasn't as fun as I thought it was going to be. So I still got the minor. Like I was still interested in it. I still, knew it was going to be useful to my life, but I'd always wanted to do philosophy, so I just did it. I was, and
what do philosophy majors do after
we
college?
read a lot. Oh,
after college,
professors. Yeah, a lot of them go to law school. I think philosophy majors have the highest LSAT scores because it's all logic. Philosophy is logic, right, and that's the only reason I love it is because it was math with words, and I love reading, so I loved words. I love writing.
Yeah.
So it was like. It was one of those like kind of rare places where I could combine my love for logic and actually like read and write. Because I feel like, people always expect you to be like, if you're a math person, like, oh, you must hate writing and reading and all, and like the social sciences. And I was like, no, they're my favorite.
Yeah.
I would rather do social sciences and math, not so much science itself. So.
No, I get it. What, did you consider Duke a hard place to graduate from?
Oh, it's definitely, majors are different. Like, not that one major is like better than the other, but like some are, I would say, harder. So like math was not easy at all. It was definitely, you have your core requirements. You got to take your languages or whatever, unless you're in engineering school. On top of that, all of your stuff, and they don't count APs. So like all the 8 I took like
none of those counted.
No, I had like 8 or 9 or something, and what they'll do is they'll give you credit for like one of them, like an actual credits. But the rest of them they'll give you credit in the sense that you no longer have to take intro classes, but the requirement for like let's say they're like you have to take 3 writing classes or 3 like lit classes or something, right? That's a requirement.
Yeah.
Just because you took like 2 AP English doesn't mean you have 1 class left to take. So like, oh no, you still have to take 3, but now they're going to be higher level because you've placed out of the entry ones with your APs.
You have to go farther now.
Yeah, exactly. So welcome very much. Like, yeah. So fun stuff.
So what kind of math were you doing your last couple of years in college?
By the last couple of years, I was like partially doing electives, whatever sounded fun to me. And then, of course, like doing a mad dash to finish my required ones that I had waited too long to do. And I overloaded almost every semester. I was always taking at least 5 classes, 5 or 6. I think some of the more memorable ones were like non-Euclidean geometry. That was one of my favorite classes. Abstract algebra I loved. I hated, it was called advanced calculus, but it was actually like real analysis, which was like, it was a writing credit. So it was a purely proof-based class. And it was like week 1, you're like keeping up. You're like, I get this. And week 2, you're like, what just happened? I don't know what is going on. So that was rough. But yeah, I had those geometry, abstract algebra. I was taking a lot of like math econ cross-listed classes, like so I took mathematical finance and financial derivatives and stuff like that. Yeah.
So you're in your 20s now.
That's right.
When you're 35, 40, 45, what are you doing?
Oh God, look at my mother.
It's not meant to be a motherly or fatherly kind of question. I'm just
definitely
what was your dream when you were in high school and at Duke?
Well,
What was the
In
idea?
high school, I wanted to be the lead singer in a band.
All right, let's talk about music.
So, I mean, that hasn't happened.
So you were really into punk from a young age. You now realize that when you were 12, you would consider it pop punk now, but you got into hardcore punk music, right? Like mosh pits and anti-establishment and all that.
Yeah, I got into hardcore punk when I was, I think, probably 13, and I got into, I mean, I was always into music. My dad's a musician, so I think it's kind of like, it was always in my blood, but he's a cellist. But I am definitely not. But yeah, I don't know. I just like got really angsty, really young. And, do
you know why?
I have no idea. I think it was just like, that was the whole era of like emo, right? Like emo was a thing. I like to be like the hipster emo because I feel like I got into it a little bit before it was a thing, right? So just having
You're
it
the
out
hipster.
there. Yeah, like I was cool, and I was like, I don't know, I just liked being different, like I went to this like private school with the same kids for like 8 years, and I just felt like it was all very the same and all.
You wanted to break out.
Yeah, I just.
You didn't want to be homogenous anymore.
Yeah, and especially like, I mean, I was like from the Bronx, right? And I'm like in school, and these kids are like from the Upper East Side. I'm like, I'm already like at a certain age, I started noticing like we have different things that we're thinking about, and like we come from different places,
right?
And so yeah, so I started listening to music, and I went to my first concert 6 days after I turned 12. I remember it was August 11th, 2005.
Wow.
My grandpa went with me, and yeah,
because Grandpa loved you.
Yeah, because Grandpa loved me, and that's, he would do anything. And yeah, and then a few months after that, I went to my second concert. It was in New York. My grandpa also came, and my mom ended up calling the police that night because she couldn't reach us, and she was sort of getting worried. Where is my 12-year-old and my father? And like we come home and there's cops in the apartment. But yeah, I was at a Simple Plan show.
Cell phones existed back then.
Yeah, but I didn't have one until I was like.
And Grandpa didn't
13.
have one.
Probably not. No.
Well, how did your mom expect to get in touch with you?
He might have had one, but Grandpa he always had a cell phone, but it was never on. The ringer was never on.
Yeah, because he didn't want to answer it most of the time.
And plus it's a concert, you can't hear anything.
Right.
Right. So yeah, I don't know. She just got worried.
Did the cops laugh when you guys showed up?
Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah. It was just not the first or the last time that my mom would do something like that and like freak out and call the cops, and they'd be like, yeah, this person's fine.
It's Miss Liakhovitser again.
Yes, you know how it is. But yeah, so I and that became a really big part of my like social life, especially in high school, where like up until then, my social life was like whoever I knew from school and my summer friends in the trailer.
Right.
And then high school came, and I like met some kids in my new school, and they introduced me to this thing called Bronx Underground, and it was this like Bronx Underground music scene, and it wasn't just punk. Like there was a bunch of different like sub-genres, right, of like rock bands that were there, like metalcore and just, I mean, like the genres are.
How long had Bronx Underground been around?
It had been around for a while before I got there, at least 10 years, I think. Like, yeah, I would, by no means was I there at the beginning. But yeah, I started getting into that, so I started getting friends who were in bands, and I started dating people in the scene, and not too many. But that became like a big part of my social life all through high school. So it was always really like interesting because rarely ever did the two things meet, like my school life and my like music life. They were very separate things, and that kind of continued right into college. Like even then I had my school life and my outside of school life, which was partially fueled by music taste and love for shows and stuff like that. And so and not to say that there's not like people who are academically inclined. Like a lot of people I knew in the music scene ended up, like there was one girl who went to UPenn, there was another girl went to Columbia. Like we had people, but they just weren't like, I didn't meet them from my school.
Right.
And it definitely wasn't the focus. Like a lot of people, they were, in there they wanted different things out of life. So, but yeah, so
you were in mosh pits a fair amount?
So I was in mosh pits before I knew what a real mosh pit was. So like it was, you know, the mosh pits where you're like pushing people around and like whatever. Yeah, I was in those all the time. I thought it was like really hard, you know.
Those weren't real mosh pits.
Yeah, those like push pits, I call them.
Yeah,
push pits.
yeah.
So I was in push pits, and then
I've been in push pits. I've
push
never
pits
been in
are
a real
fun.
hardcore mosh pit.
Yeah, and then I would like if it's a ska band, like I would be in the circle pit, or like I'll be skanking, which is like, you know, the dance that you do at the ska shows.
Okay, I didn't know
So,
that was
yeah,
a thing.
it's a thing. It's a
Okay.
thing. Skanking, skank to ska. So I would do that, but like at like hardcore shows, like I saw what like it was called like throwing down, or like, you know, it was dancing, and it was like people were doing spin kicks and like just. But I mean,
blood's
God.
flowing a bit.
Yeah, there's always blood. Like I've seen multiple people get carried out of shows. And then of course, even if you're in the crowd, you're not safe because as they're spinning, as they're doing all this stuff, they're gonna hit the crowd.
Yeah.
So I come home like covered in bruises, you know, and like bloodied and all.
And
that.
you loved it.
And, oh yeah, it was great. I mean, now I'm old, so not so much. I stay in the back now. The person I never thought I would be is who I am.
But you're still enjoying the music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I like get my butt up and go, sometimes like I would get tickets, and the day would come, and I'd be like, oh, so tired, so old, everything hurts. But that was pre-COVID, so now I realize what
You
I'm
need to
taking
rally.
for granted.
Yeah,
right.
you need to rally.
So now that's not happening anymore.
Is there a big scene here in Richmond?
Yeah, there's a hardcore scene here. Yeah. I mean, I haven't really participated. I've only been here about 2 years and a little change, so half of that time has been COVID. So,
Yeah.
But I knew people from this scene before I even moved here, just from like, because all the scenes are connected. Everyone knows each other somehow. Like,
Really, across the country,
oh, yeah.
across the world.
Oh yeah, like you go to any hardcore show in the country and you like grab a person. I bet you can find them on Facebook. They're mutual friends. Like,
Social media's enabled that.
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's, you know, that's no longer do I want to be in a band.
What were you gonna do? Were you gonna play an instrument, sing?
Oh, I wanted to sing. I mean, it doesn't matter that my singing voice is not anywhere where it needs to be. No. That's what I wanted to do. I tried learning guitar until I realized I don't have the patience or the real desire. Like, plus I need attention, right? So like, who gets the most attention in
Lead
the
singer,
band?
sure.
Lead singer,
Yeah.
right? So I'll still do like karaoke and stuff, like for funsies, you know. But you know, catch me at Queen's Gambit in Northern Virginia sometimes. But
Is that
that's
big?
a karaoke bar that I used
Okay.
to go to.
Do they not? They
in
have
Manassas,
them here
Woodbridge.
too, right?
I haven't been here.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've gotten real old lately, Paul. But I need to.
You were getting old before the pandemic.
I
sounds like.
was. It was a slow decline. But yeah, as for, so I'll circle back and to your what does Mila do in the future question. And
Yeah, it's all good. We could have not come back to it.
I've been thinking about it. That's how my brain works. Like
Yeah, that was good.
in the off time,
yeah,
it like just cycles.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, sometimes like someone at work will ask me a question, and I'll answer to the best of my ability. But then if it bugs me, if there's something about I don't know, I'll just keep thinking about, not actively, but in the back of my mind, and then like at like 2 a.m. as I'm like playing a phone game, I'm like, oh, got it.
You get to the finish
And I
line.
like figure it out, yeah. And I don't even realize I was thinking about it until it happens. And then
Most people aren't like that. I don't think.
I don't know how
Most people.
most
I don't
people
either.
are.
I don't even know what that means.
But yeah, you know, I think my whole like career I've kind of like accidentally fallen into a role. Like my first role at Capital One, I didn't know what I was signing up for. I was just so happy to have a job.
Yeah, sure.
After graduation, I was like, oh my God.
Most
I'm gonna
early
be employed.
20-somethings definitely
Yeah.
are happy to have a paycheck.
Yeah, and it was a business analyst job. And I was just like, oh, it's a great company, like, you know, whatever. And they're like, hey, you don't need to know anything. Just come here. I was like, okay, fantastic. And then I got there and I was like, oh, so this is what it is. And, you know, and kind of since then I was like, luckily I really liked what I did. And now, you know, I do that, and like, you know, my current job has allowed me to like learn, like, and kind of try a whole bunch of stuff that I probably would never have tried anywhere else. And so it's allowed me to see like all these different areas that I like and I don't like. So it's almost made my decision harder because I definitely want to go to grad school. And the question is, well, okay, great. What would you like to study? fantastic question.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think, would it be worth it to get my MBA? Do I want to do that? Sometimes I think data analytics masters. Sometimes I think statistics. Sometimes I think law school. So
You'd be good at all of those.
but I only have one life, and like.
Yeah, and you don't want to be overeducated, right? You don't want to go pursue all of that.
Yeah, and I want to be like, I like doing things, you know? Like, I mean, I like thinking, I like doing, but I've enjoyed working a lot more than I've enjoyed, and like thinking through problems and learning as I work. I've enjoyed that a lot more than like reading a textbook.
Right.
You know, so I also don't want to spend the rest of my life, you know, doing whatever, but I do want the option on the side, maybe, like to keep studying, like maybe get a PhD in something, probably philosophy.
It's whatever makes you happy.
Just
right?
for fun, like, because I think, like, I don't think I'd ever be happy if I wasn't learning. Like, I could never work somewhere where I was bored, or I just kept doing the same thing over and over. Like, I have to learn something.
All right, so you were telling me, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, how there are certain meetings that happen at our employer, and you're like, I think I should be part of this conversation, but I wasn't invited. Can you talk us through?
Yeah, so I mean, I think people try to be like, you know, respectful of other people's times or whatever, and they're like, okay, I'm trying to get something done, and here's, you know, these are the direct people that I need for that, right? They'll make a meeting, and I'll find out about it. And I'm like, oh, if you don't mind, I would love to join. If you could just add me to the invite, you know. And I think I've done that a lot of places, and it's always been productive.
Yeah.
Like I think that, like, I mean, maybe for other people, they probably have to listen to me now and they get a lot less done than they would have. But for me, it's been helpful.
Well, sometimes you take over the meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been in some of those meetings.
Well, was I wrong?
You're not wrong. You're in a place full of really smart people. You're typically one of the smarter ones in the room, if not the smartest usually.
Well, thank you, Paul.
Yeah, I have no problem saying that. I'm being accurate when I say it.
I mean, I tend to agree. I have a very high opinion of myself.
All right, hey, so, do you want to talk about music a little bit more, or do we want to pivot to boyfriend?
Oh, we can pivot. Oh, this is a fun story.
I'm not sure where we're going to head here. This is, I'm intrigued.
So I get to North Carolina, right? And I met my boyfriend online. This was like pre-Tinder. Tinder's not a thing.
But meeting people online was.
Yeah. It was like, yeah. But it wasn't like, it was like OkCupid, right? Like that was the online experience, that's where I met him, OkCupid. So we start talking, and we meet up, and we start dating, and like, I mean, like, I think we dated for 2 months, and didn't work out. Yeah, he actually broke up with me.
That's pretty quick.
In the middle of a show. I was very upset. One of my favorite bands. Yeah,
you were there to enjoy a show, and that's
he just leaves me, right? Like, well, he doesn't like leave me. No. So actually, another one of my favorite stories. He breaks up with me, so we obviously leave the show early. I'm devastated, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, like, can we stop by Walmart? I want to buy this video game." Yeah. So
can you buy the video game then break up with me?
Yeah. So we go to Walmart. He's gonna be so mad if he ever listens. But that's what happened.
I'm guessing he's gonna listen.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Sorry, babe. He's like, oh my god, like, you know, I was so young. This was like 9-10 years ago now.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Yeah, this is a very long time ago.
You guys were a lot younger.
Yeah. So you know, we break up. We stay friends though. Like that whole year, we were very good friends.
It's hard to do.
We hung out all the time. Like we were like best friends, and he was like, you know, he was dating other people. And then I think we dated again for like 2 weeks later on that year, a few months later. That, like, obviously 2 weeks didn't work out. So anyway,
it's getting worse. 2 months to 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. The time is diminishing. You know, he was older than me, so he had more of like a, you know, relationship history at the time. And so there's things that were unresolved, you know, in that history before I even came in the picture,
right,
that he needed to like let go of or resolve or, you know, fulfill, whatever.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so like years go by, we remain friends, but now we're no longer trying to even like do the thing. And he starts dating this one girl that he'd been on again, off again with before I even was in the picture. And you know, we all become friends. It's all good in the hood, and eventually they ended up getting married. And I was actually there when he bought the ring. He asked me for my help to buy.
You're like the best bud ring. Kind of thing.
Yeah. So I was there for that. I was there when he proposed.
This is a bit of a movie.
I know, like
plotline.
TM, right? Because like someone's going to buy these rights,
right?
I was there when he proposed, like the whole thing, and then I was like, "So am I going to be your best man or what?" And he was like, "Well, he had other friends that were like, that he wanted to do that with," and he was like, "But can you officiate our wedding?" And I was like, "Absolutely, I can." So 5 minutes on universallifechurch.com, and I was Universal Life Church minister. And his wedding was actually the second wedding that I did, because once people heard that I was doing his wedding, they wanted me to do theirs. So theirs was a little bit earlier. So I do his wedding. I had this really nerdy, like, they didn't tell me what they wanted me to say. So they were like, "Yeah, just go with them. Like, you know me, right?
Just be yourself."
Yeah, just be you.
Yeah.
Great. So I had this whole like tirade about how like the ring is circular, right? And so like the number pi is associated, right? It's like
you went mathy.
I went mathy. Yeah, and I was like, well, pi is an irrational number, which means it never ends. Hopefully, much like this math. I had this whole. I mean, it's a little bit more eloquent, but that's essentially what happened. And so they get married, whatever, and then. By that point, I'd already moved to Northern Virginia because I graduated, and I was working, and anyway, so they ended up breaking up, and he and I weren't really in touch over this time. Like, so for the record, I had nothing to do with them breaking up, but they broke up.
I'm glad we got that.
Yeah. just wanted to say I was not really talking to him at this time, and like he had reached out, and we started like talking as friends. And then I moved to Richmond, which is now only 2.5 hours away from where he was living. He was still in North Carolina. And, we started talking again. And, it's been about almost 2.5 years. We're back together.
And he moved here?
And he moved here this past January.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, and I also, I helped him with the paperwork for his divorce. Because it's a lot of, like, really redundant paperwork and, like, process and stuff. Yeah.
I think they make it hard, in theory, just so you try to work it out.
Yeah. And so I being the proactive wannabe lawyer that I am, I just, like, sorted through it, figured it out, told him when to go to court, when to get what notarized, what to do. And so I was there for the very beginning and the very end.
Wow. Yeah, that's not common.
Yeah.
And how long have you been seeing him now?
Almost 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not a 2-month or 2-week deal anymore.
No. I think so. We passed the 2-year cutoff, right, which would have been the next logical step. So now I'm thinking maybe like 2 decades.
Wow.
Or, yeah.
Okay.
So I'll check back in about 17.5 years, and I'll let you know if it worked out. But yeah, it's it's been good. But so the part of the story that gets even better, because in case you were wondering, does this get better? Absolutely, it does. When I started dating him again, I had just gotten out of a relationship with this other guy who was a terrible person, and he wouldn't get out of my house.
I think you and I briefly talked about this. Yeah.
So anyway, he and I break up, good riddance. I'm with this new guy, and I ended up buying a house and moving into that. And about a month or two before I did that, he slid into the DMs of my boyfriend's ex-wife. Yeah.
Okay.
So then, as I move, he helps me move, and then he moves to North Carolina in with her.
Are they still together?
No, they broke up like in October or something, I think.
I did not see that coming.
I know. Plot twist.
Big time.
Yeah, he's still in North Carolina too. Yeah.
That's an interesting move.
Yeah. I mean,
the world's so much bigger than that, right?
It was like, it wasn't an accident though. He didn't like stumble upon the profile.
No. That was
he knew
intentional.
exactly what he was doing, and he was very like, like he thought it would like hurt me somehow, I think.
Yeah.
And I was like,
just move on, man.
Yeah, okay, like I definitely won here, so
yeah,
like do whatever you want to do. but yeah, I always thought that was just so funny. I was like, in what world?
In what world is it right?
What world does this happen?
And barely in
My
your world.
Yeah, my world. My world.
All right, who's going to be more upset with you, your boyfriend or your mom? After this
100% my mom. 100% my mom. My mom was, I told you, like on my way over here, she was like telling me what to mention, what not to mention. So I do want to mention, because I feel like I talked about my grandpa a lot, but not a lot about my mom.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
But my mom, first, she'd like me to put on the record that she has 2 master's degrees.
Nice.
Yeah, that's right.
It's there forever now.
Yeah. So into the universe, my mom has 2 master's degrees.
What are they in?
God, education and like something else. So she studied math and computer science, and mind you, she'd like never seen a computer in her life before she came to the States. So I think she'd tell me that she'd get physically ill at the sight of a computer. She'd get so nervous, but she was like, no, that's what I'm doing.
She's powered through it.
Yeah, she powered through it. There's no option. Like, remember, education. What has the best like future return?
She's the mom who grounded you for 2 months for this season, the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So she took her 5 years to graduate, but she graduated, I think, top 10% in her class. And new country, new language, away from her parents for the first time. Like, the first year, she just like it did not go well, and so that's why it took her 5.
Yeah.
And then she just powered through. She just did it, and then she worked as a computer programmer for IBM for 9 years, and then they had their layoffs. And then she went to work for Chase, for Merrill Lynch, all these places in New York, Sony, and now she's a therapist. So she like not like a psychologist therapist, but more of like early education with the children when they have certain like delays or whatever it is. She works. So
it's important work.
Yeah, so she went back to grad school like in her 40s. I remember. She was, she was in school and all that. So, she did want her degrees on the record there. But I think like the important thing for me to say, if she ever listens, which I'm sure she will.
I'm guessing the mom you're describing is going to listen.
Oh yeah, she'll find this on her own, even if I don't like tell her. Like she Googles me all the time.
I think if she Googles your name, she'll probably find it associated with this.
Fun. Well, I'll never hear the end of this one. But I think, my mom has just been like probably the number one driving force in my life for me to be anywhere near like the productive person that I am. Like, I think I'm naturally, like, yes, I'm naturally smart, like, sure. But I'm also naturally very lazy. And especially in high school when like, your brain's not fully developed to
Most
make the
high
right
schoolers are that
choices.
way.
Yeah,
Right.
you're like, do I hang out or do I do homework? Like, obviously I want to hang out.
Hang out's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for her, like I knew there was never any question that like college and my education, that was it. Like I tried actually like working in high school, because money wasn't always like super flowing.
Right.
Which by the way, she like I somehow knew, but she never like let it show. Like she always like whatever I needed, she'd find the money. Doesn't matter how much it was. Like it was always like it was like magic, right? Later, now looking back, I'm like, oh man, those finances were not good. But it was just it was never a problem.
She made it work.
Yeah. But anyway, I kind of see, and I wanted to work some pocket change. She was like, no, school is your job. So I actually had to like, I think for 2 months in high school, I tried like working without telling her.
When she found out, that didn't.
She did not find out.
She never found out.
If she hears this will be her first time finding out.
Well, you keep saying if. So when she hears this.
When she hears this.
That's when she'll learn it.
Yeah. I was a waitress for 2 months. I think it was like my senior year or something.
Did you make good money?
No, it was crap. It was crap.
Tips not very good?
No. But I mean, like for a 17-year-old, 16-year-old,
anybody's good.
I was like, $20. I'm rich.
Yeah, $20 is a lot of money to a teenager. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was a lot. Like I quit. But yeah, she was always like, this is what it is, and it was never like an option. Like there was, I think the just the knowledge that like, this is what I have to do. And like, of course, all the schools that she put me in, all the programs, all the, her thing was always like, try anything once. Right? She wanted me to expose me to as many things as possible so I could choose what I liked, she didn't always listen to my choices, like the math school. I probably could have told her about a year in, like, I don't want to do this anymore. But she was like, no. This you don't get to choose, But she had me do like skiing, snowboarding, ice skating, every sport, every activity, like nonstop. Like it was all the video games I played when I was little were educational video games. Like there was an Indiana Jones. I still remember. I was like Indiana Jones, like 4th grade math video game. That was it. Even the board games like Mastermind, like the I don't know, have you ever played it? Mastermind? Highly recommend.
I have not played it.
It's just you're just trying to figure out a pattern. There's like these different colored like dots, and like you make a pattern with them and you hide it from the person, and they have to guess what color and what order you've placed those dots, and they start by putting down what they think it is, and you give them like all you can tell them is how many they have right in the right spot, and how many they have right. The color is right, but the spot is wrong.
I played a version of this. Yeah.
I was playing that at 4 years old with her, just trying to figure out like. I got real good. Yeah. Yeah, and so she's so she's always pushed me to like do this, and I think part of it was also like I realized that like I have an only child, right? She's my mom. Like she's not gonna become a millionaire tomorrow, and I think part of it was also like I've always known like my family, you take care of your parents, like
absolutely,
like that's just I'm sure lots of families are like this, but in mine, like it was just like this is what it is. If your parents need to live with you, they need to live with you, right? Like that's what it is.
Yep.
And I was always like I always knew that like I needed to do well, because if I didn't, what was my family gonna do? Right? What was my mom gonna do? She's not getting younger. She's not having another kid. Like,
yeah, you're gonna have to take care of her.
If I mess up, like if I take one wrong step somewhere, then what happens?
Yes.
So I think it was good for me to not have like she gave me as much of a safety net as I could. Like anytime anything happens, she's the most calm person in the room. Mm. She's just like I got into an car accident, my first one, that month after I got that license, and I called her like 2 a.m. She was like, "Oh, it's a good thing you had your accident because it was bound to happen sooner or later. So good thing you got out of the way." Totally calm, like it's not a big deal. We'll fix it. It's fine,
Oh man.
But at the same time, I realized I wasn't always going to have that safety net, right? At some point,
you got to be an adult.
Yeah, but I'm still. I don't think. I think still she's helping me, and my grandpa was the same way. He helped her until the very end.
Are you going to end up back in New York, or is mom going to come to you? Maybe.
I don't think New York is in the cards for me anymore. Like, I lived there for a span of 6 months, like 2-3 years ago, and it just hit me different. Like.
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, like I love it. Like it's still my favorite city in the world, and like I have all my friends there and whatever, and and I love the city. But I like being able to drive somewhere and park right in front,
right,
without circling for 3 hours. Like I like going through a drive-through. Like hello Starbucks,
Yeah, and not spending $1,000 in a day.
Yeah. So I just kind of like that. I don't know if I'll stay in Richmond forever. Probably East Coast though. I'm an East Coast girl. East Coast, Beast Coast, you know what I'm saying? So
I do know what you're saying.
but yeah, like I don't know. It may not be here, but she'll move wherever I am. I don't think she really cares. Once she retires, she's gonna go wherever I go, and she's already told me I'm gonna buy her a house. So
do you think
I'm gonna buy her a house?
You think your granddad at some point, and your mom said, "Hey, America was absolutely the right choice, and we're happy about it," or is there some doubt there?
I think my mom has always known it was the right choice. Like, I mean, I think it's always funny to me, not to get political or anything, but I think it's funny when some people are like, tell immigrants to go back where they came from.
It's silly.
The immigrants are like the most patriotic people.
Yeah.
Like, they're like,
they're so grateful.
I had a choice, yeah, and I came here.
Right.
Like, I didn't just happen to be born here. Like, I chose this because I believe in this. And so, like, I think, I think my mom is very happy with this country, and I'm very happy, like, that we came here. And I think I'm actually a pretty good example of the opportunities that are that are available, and, like, not to downplay any of the issues that we have, because like
we're not perfect.
Yeah, and I do have a lot of advantages myself, right? Like again, my mom has 2 master's degrees, right? Like, so she always knew what she was doing.
Right.
She actually like forced me into like one of the best private schools in New York, where admission is like harder than Duke. When I was 5, so she found a way in.
Yeah.
No matter what, but yeah. So I don't know. I think with my grandpa, it's hard because he left his whole life. You know, and with him, I don't think he ever like questioned himself leaving. Like, if his family left, he was going to leave. Right. There was no way he was going to stay anywhere without his family. But I think it was just more of like, would he have been happy there? Like, probably, yeah. That was his whole, like, I mean, 60 years old-ish, right? Like, moving, can you imagine? Like, I can't. No. Yeah, like, I would want to. Especially somebody you don't know the language, like, you know. But I think ultimately, like, he was, you know, every achievement that I ever had was, like, the best day of his life. Yeah. You know, so.
It's a cool connection.
Yeah.
You had.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Mila, this was fun. I think we said an hour and a half. It's been an hour 35. People that we work with will be surprised it didn't go longer than this.
Yeah.
It was great having you on. Thanks for coming out again. I really do appreciate it. I learned a ton about you tonight. I'm glad we had an opportunity to do this.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for doing your very best to keep me on topic. I think, like, listening back through this, I'm going to be like, wow, if it wasn't me talking, I'd be so confused right now.
No, you're good. No, it's not true at all. But I was with you the whole way.
Well, I guess that means that we did okay.
Yeah, we did fine. Yeah. You don't have to get an 800 on the podcast.
I do, though. I'm very competitive.
Yeah, yes, you are. It's all good, though.
A+ podcast, guys. Rate me number 1.
Yes, please do. That's fine. We like 5 stars. It's all good.
But make sure you put it's because of me.
Yeah, please say Mila's name a lot in your review.
That's right.
All right, cool. Thanks, Mila.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd also really appreciate if you'd rate and review us. You can find us at scodupodcast.com.